I'm losing my way. You've gotten to me, and that's my mistake. Some might say I can't get too far without seeing your face. Oh, you gave me your heart and took it away. I'm going underground, till your loving comes around, going underground, cause your love is not around anymore, going underground.
G'day guys, and welcome to this episode of Ranger Touring. This is going to be another iteration of my favourite campsites around Australia. I'm going to keep you updated as we travel around this awesome country and explore some pretty spectacular places. Tune in for this episode of Ranger Touring. So for this, I'm going to be talking you through the spots as to where they are, the size of the vehicle I think you could get into the campsite, how much it costs, how difficult it is to get there, and the facilities that are provided around that area. And finally, the things that you can do whilst you're at that campsite. Before I tell you what my favourite campsites are, for this round of the video, I just want to talk to you through the way I find my campsites and the way I kind of plan my trips. Firstly, Wiki Camps is your best friend when planning a trip. So what I'll do normally is I'll research the area that I want to go to. I'll filter by whether I want it to be dog friendly, whether it's free, whether there's 4-wheel drive tracks around the area, or whether it's 4x4 access only. They're generally my starting points, and then from there I'll find some spots and just work out if that area in general is worth going to. The reviews on there are worth checking out, however obviously take it with a grain of salt because everyone has their own opinion of what makes a good campground. So the first one is the Flinders Beach Campground. That is at the north side of Stradbroke Island. So when you get off the barge at Stradbroke Island, you can drive on the bitumen and then you head to the north side and there'll be a beach entrance. From there it's about a 5k drive along the beach, and it's pretty soft sand, so do keep that in mind. And also it's very tidal as well, so that's how you get there. To the size. So surprisingly there were some pretty big vans in the Flinders Beach Campground. You do have to travel there at low tide if you want the hard sand to pull a big van in. And to be honest, to get there in general, you had to be traveling pretty much on low tide because there's not a lot of beach and it does sort of erode up to these massive walls where you can't really climb up the dune afterwards. The sites themselves are really big and you can fit quite a large van. Okay, so the cost. So getting over to Straddie's got a few costs associated with it. Depending on when you're traveling, the ferry is going to cost you at least probably $130 for your vehicle. As well as that too, you're going to need a 4-wheel drive access permit, which is about $50 for the month. You can't just buy it for a day, so you have to go either a month or up to a year. As well as that too, then there's the camping cost. Yeah, $26 a night. However, the good part is it's dog friendly. Okay, things to do whilst you're there. Obviously, you're right on the beach. You've got the beach itself to swim in. However, it's not a lifeguard guarded beach, so you know, check the water. You can fish. And then obviously you've just got the nice beachside campsites. The facilities were pretty good. There's a pretty large toilet block with a drop toilet and running water for your sinks. There's not any fresh water or like potable water that you can take from there, so you do need to bring that yourself. However, noting that you're just on the northern edge of Stradbroke Island, you're not too far away from major facilities anyway. The next spot is not a specific campsite, but just generally the campsites along the Boyd River. It's south of Nambodia and it sits between a few national parks. Where you can then take dogs, and it's not part of either the national park or a state forest, so it sits outside that realm. You find the tracks along there by heading down Glen Innes Road. The access for it is pretty much all-wheel drive. Some of the entrances into the campsites will require a 4-wheel drive just due to either having to cross the creek or some steep entrances. However, if you just want to choose some of the easier spots that are more like grassy fields, you'll be able to get in there with an all-wheel drive vehicle. The limiting factor of getting to the Boyd River campgrounds, if you're coming from west to east, is the hand-cut tunnel, which is 3 meters in height and 4 meters wide. So if you've got a tall van, you're not going to be able to do this. If you're coming from the east, there isn't as many limiting factors. You don't have to necessarily go through the tunnel. Okay, the cost of this one, it's a free campsite. Things to do whilst you're there. So again, it's a campground along the river. So the main things are swimming in the creek. There is some 4-wheel drive tracks around the area, and as well as that too, you can do some freshwater fishing. Additionally, you can go up to Dalmorton, which has also got a historical homestead, which you can check out as well. There is no facilities at the Boyd River campgrounds. All right, so the next campsite is George's Junction. George's Junction is located in the New England High Country, and it's pretty much just west if you go straight from Coffs Harbour. However, the way we came in was through the town of Ebor. And the road in is pretty narrow and windy, and you're pretty much on the edge of a cliff for a good portion of it. So as a result of that, I would probably recommend not taking anything bigger than a camper trailer or a small hybrid caravan. Otherwise, I think you'll be in a bit of trouble trying to negotiate your way down the hills. So there's another free campsite. Okay, what's there to do whilst you're out at George's Junction? So probably the main two attractions are the four-wheel drive track across the Macleay River. Now, I didn't do that last time we went. I was pretty disappointed that we didn't, and that's just due to the fact that it was flowing and general day-to-day, I don't think it gets down that low either. So we did see some people go through it towards the end of the night, but you definitely can get it wrong because there is some quite large boulders in there. Additionally, it's a pretty big hub for bass fishing. My mate did catch a bass whilst he was there, but there's also the Bass Lodge, which sits just away from the Junction, and therefore you can go stay there and do a bit of a fishing trip out of the Bass Lodge. So there is some facilities there. There was a single toilet block, and there is some fireplaces that people have used. They're not official fireplaces, but there's rocks all through the grassy fields and that sort of stuff. But if you don't want to stay up there, you can head further down right on the river. No one's stopping you from camping there. Okay, so the next spot is called Big Bend. Big Bend's located about 30 minutes drive north of Charters Towers up in North Queensland. Big Bend, pretty much just the river, does a big loop around the outside like a keyhole. In that big sort of circular area is the Big Bend camping area. It's a pretty spectacular spot. The river obviously is the main attraction there, and you can camp all along there. There is some easier spots if you want to camp right up the top. And you could probably take a moderate four-wheel drive down there. However, if you want to go right to the bottom on the river in the best spots that are tucked under the trees where we were, then you'll need a much more modified four-wheel drive because it's pretty hectic getting up those hills. There's pretty steep entrances and exits. This sort of campsite is open pretty much all year round. However, I will caveat that obviously Townsville and that area gets a lot of water up around Christmas time, so afterwards it's a bit of a sloppy mess getting in. However, if you go too late, then it's pretty dry, but you do have the river to sit in, and there is sections where you can be pretty confident that you won't run into any crocodiles. What would I say can access this area? I'd probably say a camper trailer could access the top section for sure, and probably even a small hybrid van. Or if you want to get to the bottom section, I'd probably say you're limited to a vehicle, maybe a small camper trailer, depending on how good your car is and how good the trailer is. Okay, so this is another free campsite, and I found it on WikiCamps. Okay, so what's there to do there? You can definitely throw a line in the river. I did try, didn't catch anything, but probably wasn't fishing right anyway. There's heaps of four-wheel drive tracks to play around, and we spend a weekend there just doing the loop and just trying out the different tracks. There's some good flexi sections you'll be able to find, and then there's some good hill climbs. Just driving around the base of the river anyway. It's nice and sandy and pretty fun. There's no facilities there, so you do need to be self-sufficient for this campsite. So next spot's Top Crossing Campground. It's in the Victorian High Country and it's south of Wangaratta. To get in there is a bit of a four-wheel drive track. There is two water crossings that you have to go through. And the first one, pretty mild. Second one has an actual moderate depth. From there as well, there's a pretty steep descent down into the camping area. And if there has been a lot of rain, like there was when we went there, the exit trip can be a little bit slippery, but nothing to be too concerned about. I would say that a camper trailer could get in there. However, I did tow in the high country, and I probably wouldn't recommend it in general. It's not good for your car's transmission, your drivetrain. You have to work it pretty hard to get up some of those hills. It's another free campground. The main attraction would be the four-wheel drive tracks on the way in. But as well as that too, you might be able to try your luck with some fishing in the freshwater creek as well. There are no facilities in this spot whatsoever. Additionally, Top Crossing Hut, as it suggests, has a hut at the bottom of it. So it's a small building, another Victorian High Country hut. They're kind of like almost landmarks to go chase when you're in the high country. You want to go check them all out eventually in the time that you're there, so that's just another one that's pretty good. There's no facilities, so you do need to be self-sufficient for this campground. Thanks for tuning into this video, Ranger Touring. I hope you enjoy those campsites, and I'll tell you what, there's plenty more to come. I'm going to keep sending these out every so often, just so that you can keep getting some good ideas to plan your trips.